I'm really, really amazed at the number of participants and all of you distinguished participants who have come in, taken a huge interest in hydrogen and are here. Fantastic. I get to do this once in a while. I assure you, in different parts of the world, I assure you that this is a very large sort of group, and I saw that everybody is stuck in now for the second day. So fantastic. Thank you for the privilege, and I will hopefully try and sort of do justice to the next 7 or 8 minutes. So I'm very aware that I'm probably preaching to the converted, but let me just sort of, I think it's extremely worthwhile reminding ourselves where we are today. So where we are today, both renewable energy and green hydrogen are now very much a compelling value proposition for a very simple reason. In quite a wide part of the world, compared to fossil fuel generated electricity, certainly for the electricity that we consume during the times when wind and solar resources are available, there is no other way than wind and solar that you can generate electricity cheaper. And the difference is growing by the day. The gap between how low at the cost at which you can generate renewable energy and versus fossil fuel-based energy, that gap is widening. And the second sort of most important thing is, okay, it also is obviously carbon-free, but it's also something that has no market pricing mechanism attached to it. For a very simple reason, in the case of fossil fuel, something like 70–75% of the cost of generating electricity using gas, oil, coal, whatever you want, is related to the market price of the day. 70–75%. Well, the good Lord doesn't charge us for the sun and the wind, so we spend a lot of money putting a plant, thereafter it's free. So we are able to lock the price of the cost of that energy up front, and that then stays with us for 20, 25, 35 years. Given how significant energy is as an economic value creator and enabler, think about the real value of locking that price of energy for decades to come. So these are really, really significant sort of advantages of renewable energy. But the Achilles heel, we are yet to find a way to store electrons reliably and cheaply for long durations. So that is a problem. But, and there are many industrial processes that need very high temperature and a catalytic agent to convert that process. Hydrogen is a molecule that supplies both very high temperatures and can act as a catalytic agent for some of these processes that require that catalytic agent that carbon was providing. Good news, obviously, in certain parts of the world, not across the world, where we are able to generate electricity at very competitive prices using renewable energy, we now can use the electrolysis process to start producing green hydrogen. So that is the real value proposition, and I'm just going to go through some numbers with you very quickly as I move on to then showcase a couple of projects that have already started. So, yes, so the numbers, very, very high level. You'll see lots of words. These slides are going to be available to you anyway, so you can look at them in detail. But at a very high level, we are now able to generate electricity at even today, with rampant inflation and sort of higher base interest rates, we are able to generate at 3 cents, 3.5 cents, solar and wind on a per kilowatt hour basis. Compared to today, with the fuel prices change so fast, it's very difficult to keep up with it. But anything from 7 to 11, 12, 13 cents per kilowatt hour using fossil fuel, look at the difference. So when we are able to use that, generate that energy when we use it, there is no other way to do it cheaper. Now jump to hydrogen. Hydrogen in 2015 green hydrogen was somewhere around about $800 to $1,000 per megawatt hour. That's something in the order of 10 US dollars per kilogram. People use both terminologies, so I'll use both. We produce green hydrogen. What I can confidently tell you is that we can do hydrogen today without much difficulty at prices in the range of $100. That's about $100 per megawatt hour, which is about $4 per kilogram of hydrogen. That's today already. As we start deploying more projects at scale, the published numbers are what I've shared with you, that we should be able to get to $2 a kilo or $50 per megawatt hour by 2030. I personally believe, with what I am seeing through the implementation of the first project itself, we should be able to get to there in 2025. We don't need to wait till 2030. So hydrogen is a cost-competitive value proposition for a lot of processes that we have no other idea on how to decarbonize. And you look at any scenario on how we're going to get to net zero anytime soon, 2050, 2060, whatever you want to pick. There are like 25% of emissions. We have no clue on how to decarbonize, other than now pray that green hydrogen comes in fast and becomes competitive, because that's the only solution we have now. That doesn't mean that within the next 10 years we will not be able to find something else, or next 20 years. But right now, that is the solution we have. So huge demand for hydrogen is being projected, and that's really what I wanted to show you with this particular slide. And it's this part of the world that has the capacity to generate, because that's where the resources are, and it is that part of the world above, US, Europe, Asia, parts of Asia, China, that desperately needs enormous amount of capacity, and that demand is there. The company that I've been privileged to lead for the last 17 years, we have very much focused at not market pricing what we produce, power and desalinated water, and now in hydrogen, but at trying to focus in on cost, risk-reflective investment returns, and keep the cost down as low as possible, and keep driving the cost of whatever those things are, electricity, water, drive those costs down as fast as possible. And as we step into hydrogen, this is exactly what we are doing. And the next slide is a very busy slide, but what I wanted to show you there is merely the fact that, if I can get there, merely the fact that over the last decade, we have led the reduction of concentrated solar power tariffs by 80%, photovoltaic tariffs by 85%, wind energy by 75%, and we are very convinced just within the next 5 years, hydrogen will come down at those sort of rates. With that conviction, and while everybody was waiting for a market to be developed, we decided that we can go forward and get on with one project that will produce significant amount of green hydrogen, so at scale, and the market will come. Utterly convinced. So we have decided to go forward, and we have now gone forward with what is, I think many people know, as the NEOM project. Well, let's not get confused. NEOM is a region developing a 500 billion investment, massive future way of life, clean mobility, everything else packaged into one. But at that site, we are developing a very large green hydrogen project using solar power to be generated at a site nearby 200 kilometers away, wind power to be generated on the coast at NEOM, and moving those through power lines to an industrial site where we're putting a fairly large plant to produce green hydrogen. We'll be producing green hydrogen, we'll be converting that to liquid ammonia, so it'll be green liquid ammonia, which then in turn will be shipped out from the port of NEOM to the world markets. So at a very high level, the quick sort of numbers, we're going to be using 2.5 gigawatts of solar capacity, generating capacity, 1.5 gigawatts of wind generating capacity to feed 2 gigawatts of electrolyzers. Those 2 gigawatts of electrolyzers will produce 600 tons to produce 1.5 1.15 million tons of liquid ammonia. The project has already gone into construction. Electrolyzer contracts have been awarded to ThyssenKrupp, so we're using alkaline electrolyzers from ThyssenKrupp. We're using the well-known Haber-Bosch process to convert the hydrogen to liquid ammonia. At the core of it, it's very large, but at the core of it, a very straightforward project. But it is the first of that scale. And just to give you an idea, 240,000 tons of green hydrogen per annum is more than all the green hydrogen produced today by whatever the number of plants, because they're all very small plants scattered around the world. So this is the first of a kind that is going to become replicated. And we have already stepped into Oman to repeat that project at another site. And we are looking at exactly the same sort of structure in partnership with Air Products. In the case of Saudi Arabia, one-third partnership with Air Products and NEOM. In the case of Oman, with OQ, which is the Oman investment company, doing exactly the same output. Namibia's value proposition, you know it. You've got fantastic solar and wind resources. You've got the Atlantic Ocean, easy access to markets, deep sea ports. You've got a very stable government, excellent track record of behavior on the contracts. You should be able to attract very large, significant investments, which is what this will need. So the platform is really ready to take advantage of the, and you're sitting also in a market that is to the south, the industrial clusters of South Africa. Namibia itself should be able to industrialize on the back of the amount of hydrogen it can produce for itself. Thank you for your attention.